Welcome to the Morpheus Cyber Podcast. Today, TikTok crisis, AI coding boom. From social media sell-offs to trillion-dollar coding disruptions, we're tracking the deals that could reshape digital power forever. Grab your phone and vote in our live polls. ahaslides.com/MCA8.
TikTok's sales structure finally leaked. Turns out avoiding a ban involves more corporate gymnastics than a Chinese acrobat troupe.
AI just turned 30 million coders into a $3 trillion question mark. Are we programming ourselves out of programming jobs?
Fusion startups are burning through $100 million rounds faster than they're actually burning hydrogen. But hey, someone's got to fund the sun.
Waymo hit nearly 500,000 weekly rides, then promptly reminded everyone why humans still clutch the wheel in their nightmares.
Vote along with us at ahaslides.com/MCA8. Let's dive in.
This is your captain speaking. At this time, I'm going to ask you to fasten your seatbelts. Flight 527, runway 8 kilo. You're clear for takeoff.
The convergence is here. 5 technologies are colliding: AI, quantum, cybersecurity, crypto, and robotics. Each week, we track the signals that matter most before they become headlines. Why do we have this thing called techfuturesindex.com? Well, it's like a stock index that tracks market movements. We track the top 10 in each one of those areas, and also we track private companies in techfuturesindex.com. So check that out. We'll talk about that once in a while. It's not our main focus. It's for anyone who's a technologist, a manager, an executive, or somebody who's just curious about what the future is bringing. And right now, the future is changing mighty fast. So we are essentially sub-billionaires, and we affectionately call ourselves that because we are not billionaires. But billionaires have teams tracking all of this for them. You don't. We've built this for the rest of us: founders, professionals, investors, and technologists. Enterprise-grade intelligence without enterprise price tags. I am building the future of cybersecurity, and I'm focused on using NVIDIA DPUs, capturing every packet going in and out of major corporations, 100% of them, sending that over to NVIDIA's Morpheus model running on Blackwell chips, so that we are looking at every packet going in and out of an organization in real time so that we can discover threats sub-second and stop them. Because DPUs, data processing units, not only provide packet acquisition, they also have access control lists. So when you find something in the Morpheus model and kill it. So that's why we named the podcast Morpheus Cyber, but it's much more than that. So 3 perspectives: security architect, business strategist, technology operator, just real debate, honest disagreement. We tell you what we're actually thinking, not what's safe to say. So thanks for joining us today. And we have with us Jim Rounsville and Gus Stein, and they will introduce themselves a little bit here and there as the podcast goes. So thanks so much for joining us on MorpheusCyber.com. You'll also notice that there are links that you can get in the show notes that take you to a real-time interactive system where we have slide material and polls that you can interact with in real time as you listen to this podcast or as you watch it. So it's got a lot of interactive content. So thanks for joining us today. So hey, Jim, what's up first?
Every week, we're going to take a few different topics, and I'll start with one in just a moment, but we go through so many topics, each one of us, right? Look at these different topics, what's in the news today, what we think is important. So we'll start with the first one here today. We've been kind of watching for a TikTok deal to show up. And so we're very interested to see what the details are going to be. And we knew that Oracle would be a big player in this. And so when you peel back the headlines of the TikTok deal, you find that this isn't just a kind of a clean national security solution. It's kind of a sophisticated illusion of control. Although there's control of of Oracle to have all of the control of the storage of data, they don't have any control over the algorithms as to what is served up in the TikTok application. So this can have a lot of problems that go along with it. So they call this Project Texas because Oracle's moved to Texas. For most of you who don't know that, California has let another big corporation leave. They continue to do that. And I heard with their billionaire tax coming that they're going to see a bunch of other corporations leave. That's a whole nother subject. But what is this deal about? It's a $1.5 billion architectural workaround so that Oracle is going to store all the data here in the United States. But because they don't have control over the algorithm in any way or form, China is still able to serve up what they feel is important to the American consumer. And that to us is a security risk. And so we've got part of the deal done. There's still more to be done, I would hope. I haven't seen that they're still in discussions about the algorithm part of the application. If they don't get hold of that, I can't see how this is a good deal for the US. I don't
Well,
have TikTok installed on my phone or any of my computers at this point just because of the security risk. I'm a security guy. I'm just not going to do that. But all of my kids, all of my grandkids have TikTok. So I'm interested in this. I want to
Almost
see
half
this
the United
happen.
States.
Yeah, for sure.
I
So
mean,
it's a great app.
150,000. It's
It's
crazy.
a great app. But
150 million spend
Million,
yes, 150
95
million.
minutes a
Yeah.
day on
on average. Yep.
TikTok.
That's influence at scale, my friend. That is totally influence at scale.
So, talking
So
about this solution that they're looking at here, one congressman who's actually said a year ago, who was a senator at the time, this is security theater, not security policy. Who do you think
right.
said that? I'll give you a hint. He was a senator, and now he's the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. So there
Yeah.
is not a lot of agreement, and this guy is obviously in one of the catbird seats now, so he holds a lot of sway.
China's not going to give control. The algorithm's what TikTok's all about. Without the algorithm, it's just another social media site. And they track 150 different elements for each view to determine what they're going to show you next. That's where the magic is. And they've come out and said that's not negotiable.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, are we
if-
gonna? Or we don't really do very many predictions, but obviously, we're wondering that the time frame is coming up where they're going to have to or get off the pot, right? So we're going to either have to have a deal or we're not going to have a deal or no deal. And something's
for
going to
sure.
happen here pretty quick, or they're going to kick the can down the road. I kind of think they're going to kick the can down the road.
Yeah, I don't know the technical feasibility of what they're suggesting, and that's to create this safe space where US entities are going to be able to look at the algorithm and try to control it without having the source code or really running things. And I that's complicated to me. And is that going to slow things down?
Well, let's put it this way. You can't have digital sovereignty when the brain remains in Beijing, right?
Sure. Yeah, and if it not being fully Chinese, not being fully American, just creates this regulatory risk. How do you manage one half of something you don't own? You can't. It's not going to happen. So there's going to be this influence that we have no control over it.
Yeah,
So they
pretty
can
much
decide-
ByteDance would retain ownership of the algorithm source code under this proposed deal. Not sure that's
Yeah.
going to work.
Yeah, it's pretty dicey.
Yeah,
I'm curious to
we'll
see
see.
how this is going to unfold.
Yeah, and TikTok generates $18 billion a year in global advertising revenue. That's no small chump change.
Right.
Right.
US wants their cut.
Why don't you roll us out of this one? Because I don't see an end to that one. I mean,
Well,
that's
we'll see
kind
how
of
it
like
plays
we're
out.
stuck waiting on Congress, right? Congress knows already that this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
The suggestion that was put before Congress is that, hey, you're going to have control of this part, and Congress knows, no, not going to happen. That's what Marco Rubio said that. So we'll
Correct.
see more to be happening. So it's just in the news. We need to watch it, but it needs to get sorted out. Like I said, all of my kids, my grandkids love that app, and I'd like to use it too. I just won't until they get it figured out. So
Yeah,
anyhow,
my family's on it. So, okay, so moving right along here. I don't know if you guys heard, but there's a new market that's emerging with this AI coding, and there's something like 30 million developers worldwide, all make on average $100,000, and so that creates a $3 trillion marketplace for this new emerging technology. Now, GitHub's Copilot, and by the way, Copilot is the perfect name. It's genius marketing because it allows the developer to still feel like they're in control, but you got someone helping you. So I give them kudos for that. But they're dominating the marketplace, GitHub, and they have almost 2 million subscribers. And this sort of proves that the developers are willing to invest in some sort of a co-pilot type of situation. JP Morgan Chase has given AI coding to all 50,000 developers. First of all, it blows me away they have 50,000 developers, but that's the way it is. And better tools make better developers. But there is a downside to this. And the downside is that the AI generated code is approximately twice as vulnerable to security risks as the human written. What do I mean by security risks? They have hard-coded credentials. They have missing authentication, weak cryptology usage. There's what they're finding quite a bit. And so the question really is, what do you guys think? Will AI replace programmers, or will programmers who use AI replace programmers who don't?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
Well, my thought
go
is
ahead.
that, the proof's in the pudding, and these companies are acting on ROI, and they're already seeing a 40% reduction in time to ship new features since deploying AI coding tools across engineering teams. So that is a very powerful ROI that companies can't deny. And where do companies go? They go to either make more money or they go to save more money and at the same time have efficiencies. So I believe that we're not going to stop this trend anytime soon. And I think organizations, I personally am a user of Claude Code, and I believe that it's just massively powerful. A year ago, when it first started, it was error prone. It had a lot of problems. But today, I can pretty much develop a new feature or what have you, and maybe I have one or two errors in the code, and then I just take those error codes, send them back into AI, and it goes and fixes itself. So it's like, physician, heal thyself, and it does. It's pretty doggone cool. It's not a panacea, but for somebody who doesn't know how to code, they can learn to code in a few weeks using English as the language instead of C+ or assembler. True story.
Yeah, I kind of watched you build an application from scratch, and I've been impressed to watch that whole process, and it's inspired me to also learn Cursor and Claude in the future. But right now, I'm happy just to work with Cursor. But I read something by Cursor's CEO, Michael Trull, and he said that vibe coding builds shaky out foundations, and eventually things start to crumble. So he's a creator of an app for this very purpose, and he basically is saying it's like if you let AI build stuff without understanding the code, if you don't understand the code, then things fall apart as complexity grows. And that's true for some simple apps, no problem. You can build a simple app, but as they get more complex, then problems start to appear. And it's kind of like building a house without understanding electrical systems and plumbing, right? So, hey, what's so hard to do? Just tell it to do this stuff and it'll create it for you. But under the covers, there's some problems, and we don't see those unless you're an advanced developer. And so the demand for advanced developers is going to rise significantly because that need to be able to see under the covers what really is going on is extremely important. In fact, they're starting to build in AI systems just to run security checks on applications, which, to your point, Bill, eventually this probably will all get sorted out and it'll get to not 40%, but 80 or 90% completion and dependability. And maybe the 20% are those one-offs where this is a very complex problem that they have to deal with. And only an advanced coder might be able to say, how can we approach this in different ways that are best for this particular situation? So
Most
good
still
advanced
applications.
coders. Yeah, good news for you advanced coders. You guys are going to be around for a long time. There's
Sure, but
no hope of losing you guys.
Jim, I agree 100%, but I've watched you and Bill tinker around with these things, and I challenge that 40% number. I can't believe it's so low. Why are they lowballing that number? I just because I see Bill in the middle of when we're talking. I go, gee, that'd be neat if we had a search bar at the top of this. And boom shakalaka, he goes in, types it in. I'm used to software development being a quarterly process. They announce you decide you're going to make a change, and it might show up within a year if you're lucky, and it gets postponed. I'm watching him do it in real time. I think it's maybe 40 times faster, not 40% faster. Now,
Yeah.
the errors, the security may be dropping, but the speed in which it helps an experienced coder code, I think is dramatically faster. I think they're lowballing it.
So let me talk
Yeah.
about it in this way. ADHD is a problem that people have with executive function. They're very smart in the various pillars of knowledge that they have. The trouble with ADHD is that they don't have good executive function. What does that mean? That means if you're doing authentication within your application here, and then some sort of a feature of your application here, and then some reporting feature of your application here, and then some technical information over here. The trouble is that when these applications get large, the AIs, which the other thing I experience is it's like 51st dates. Every time you go to tell it a prompt, it's like, well, let me go see how that works. You just set that up 5 minutes ago. What do you mean? Let me go see how that works. You just did it 5 minutes ago. Well, it's like 51st dates. It has to go back to the code, look at everything. So it does not have context that goes from edge to edge. In other words, authentication is one silo. And just like a person with ADHD, brilliant within, matter of fact, probably almost genius within their pillar, within a certain knowledge. But emotionally, maybe they don't have the ability to see the big picture from all across all of the pillars of knowledge. And so consequently, what ends up happening is these big apps, as they grow and grow, and you have so many different pillars and silos, the application does not have the context, and it's not large enough to understand authentication and at the same time overhear something else. And so consequently, when these apps get very large, they lose overall context, and I call it executive function, which means that is what programmers, coders, and technologists are going to bring to vibe coding and AI coding is, okay, I have to plan the overall architecture of this. Now, that's a topic and that's a task that AI can handle. Just like they handle all the complexity within a silo, once they understand that they have to understand the full breadth of the application and all of the aspects, and they have to be able to understand different components of that, that's when AI is really going to take off, because it's going to have executive function. It's not just going to be brilliant within one area. It's going to be brilliant in that one area or 10 areas of your app, but it's also going to have good executive function, context information, and it's going to have a way of remembering things and indexing that remembrance a little bit better. I think that's when AI is really going to be trusted by the organizations, when we can put it into what I call the executive function.
Right now, under the hood, it's still statistical pattern matching. So it's seeing a group of code that's already been done by someone else, and it learned that code. So it pattern matches and says, oh, I know what you're doing. You're building this. Oh, let me finish it for you. In fact, let me suggest to you what you missed in your code. Would you like to add this to your code? Because it's seen it already. It's just statistical matching. It does not have the ability to do semantic understanding. So the semantics, meaning the differences in the ways what something might mean. And so you have to be so darn right specific to an AI to get it to really sometimes do what you want it to do. And then and it almost makes you want to say, no, dummy, you know what I mean? And you can't, it's because it doesn't know anything more than
So
what you give it.
the human architect is safe for now.
Yeah, for
Yes,
sure.
I
Yeah.
agree.
So until that happens right now, they can't do that yet. And we've seen that. I've watched Bill do this and stuff that I've done too, where and we're not even talking about coding. We're just talking about the simple things, helping you with a configuration on a router or switch or any number of devices. You have to be very specific on what you say. It doesn't infer anything from what you said. Unless you got right into their knowledge wheelhouse, like where it already has seen this before, then it can start suggesting things, but you got to get it there. That's your job, to get it to where it can actually help you. So,
Yeah, and the other
yeah.
thing is documentation. The AIs, cheap AIs or AIs that don't have, large scale context, the smaller models, the Chinese models, etc. They don't have all the documentation. And the other thing is that even Claude and Claude Code, the latest, I think, Opus 4.5 is like September of 2025. If somebody changed something materially in Python or C++ or any of the different coding languages, you have to explicitly go tell the AI coding engine, hey, there might be some new information out. And so then you have to provide it with the documentation. Now, once it's provided the documentation, it learns it really well, but that eats up a lot of your context window as well. So there's a finite ability. So there's these things called MCP servers, which extend the capabilities of the AI into other areas. Initially, they didn't have the ability to go out and cruise the web and find things new on the web. Now, if there's a new API or something that came out, let's say in December of 2025, and I need to know what that was because I'm coding in that particular area, I can go out, find that link of documentation, and give it to the AI, and it will consume it. But there's a limit to how much you can do with that. And there are MCP tools called Contact 7, there's some others, where their expertise is helping coders gain access to real-time information to, that's why it's called Contact 7. It gives you real-time information to all the latest documentation for all of the programming languages and routines.
Amazing.
Yeah, well, the good thing is the cost for using these tools is quite low. So I think an average person who wants to learn how to code, maybe you'll actually learn the coding structure, but you'll learn after time of using it because you're using just common English and you're talking to it, telling it what you want to build, you start to see how coding actually works. It actually builds the code before you in whatever coding window that you're using. You can actually learn it if you want to sit and understand it. Every time it writes code, you can just correlate to what you asked it to do and learn it. So it's just kind of reverse engineering yourself into becoming a coder. Now, if future programs are always going to be using AI anyhow, don't spend so much time trying to understand the nuance of everything, as well as understand how to use the AI tool, because that's the future.
Well,
for
6 months ago, it wouldn't do this, that, and the other thing, and now it will.
Right.
So
Right.
if you're stuck or you have an application that you wrote 6 months ago, then go out and look at it again with new eyes, because AI is getting better 15% per month. So that's about almost 100% better in 6 months, right? So if you're having problems, just put the app on the shelf until, some new AI code comes out, and it'll help you out. Now,
And for you,
let's talk about the cost. So you
Yeah.
can buy, like you did, Jim, Cursor, $20 a month.
Right.
But
Yep.
as soon as you get to the point where you're doing a bunch of code and you're really in it and it's really looking good, they say, hey, you're out of tokens.
Tokens.
And then you say, oh man, I'm sweating bullets here. Click. I want to buy more. Well, Cursor's pretty expensive in the add-on area. So what I do is I use Claude Code, and I like it a lot. I use the Max plan. It's $200 a month. But guess what? It's like having a full-time coder, in your shirt pocket. It is powerful, and you don't run out all the time, because when you buy a little bit by little bit, costs a lot more, because those little bit by little bit per token cost more per capita. So it's better to, once you decide you're going to do it. Now, let's just say around December, I wasn't using Claude Code very much. I can drop it from the Max plan 200 a month down to 100 a month. Or if I'm on sabbatical for a month or two, I can just turn it down to $20 a month or whatever, and wait until I get back and then turn it back on. So they're pretty generous about turning it on and turning it off, and the amount of tokens that you get and the amount of time. So on the $200 a month deal, I've hit the ceiling like maybe once.
You're just a high roller, Bill.
Yeah, but the thing is, yeah, I'm still a sub-billionaire.
I know.
Billionaires can.
You're a medium roller.
That's it. But anyway, I hope that helps people understand a little bit of the context. You can't really use OpenAI or Claude or any of them to do, or Cursor to do true coding for $20 a month. They're gonna get you. And they usually hit you right when you're really solving a major problem. And they say, you're going to have to wait, because they do it in like 5-hour increments. And they'd say, you can continue on using this level of model until 3:30 a.m. or whatever. And it puts it into 5-hour windows. And if you overshoot in that 5-hour window, like during the middle of the day, you hit the top, you're either going to have to go, they drop you down to a lower model, which I don't like to program with lower models. I use Opus 4.5. I don't want to go down to a lower model, because it might hose up my system, right? And then Cursor has its own new Compose model, and it's certainly cheaper and that sort of thing, but we don't know where it is, but we kind of think that it's using some of the cheap Chinese models in there to make it cheaper. But anyway, it's really great. I advise people to go. With the $20 a month or even less, you can build real code. The first thing I did was I created a Tetris program. Boom, just like that. So the first thing when I was showing Jim how to use this and I made him use the Cursor, made him do it. And we need to do that with you, Gus, because you need to see this before your own eyes. You just click up into the agent area and say, make me a Tetris program that has this name, and allow us to see the pieces come ahead of time before they arrive, and then have a reset, and then have a high game score and that sort of thing. And you can just keep adding to it. And I'm serious.
I don't think I'm smart enough, Bill. I'm just your average sub-billionaire living in San Diego. I like to hang out with my friends Jim and Bill, my Austinite friends, and I'm cool with that.
Hey, if you guys are a student, any of you guys are out there are students, you can also, Gemini CLI offers free access to their pro version, so you can get that for free, which is not their starter version.
You have to be a student?
You have to be a student to get that discount, because it's free for the $20 a month version. So
good point.
It's a pretty good deal. And then they don't have like a business version. It jumps right to an enterprise version. And it's like $249 a month. I don't know what the tokens are for that, but yeah, you're going to have to look at all of that. But certainly Cursor is a good starting place. Claude is great. Bill swears by it, and I would agree. I probably need to elevate to Claude at some point. Gemini CLI is fast there. I don't know if they've already done some things that are actually better than Claude, but certainly they're a competitor, and you probably should take a look at it. So if you're a student, that's probably the place to start.
So I am not an expert in this next topic, but Fusion startups are popping out like crazy. $7 billion have been popped out there, but Jim has studied this pretty intensely, and it would be really great to have some of Jim's views on this. He's got some nice diagrams we're going to show. But
Right.
hey, Jim, what do you think
Yeah.
about fusion?
I love fusion. That's the future of power. And the sooner we get there, the better. And, every year people would say, in 30 years, we're going to see fusion. And next year, in 30 years, we're going to see fusion. Next year, it's just the same repeat. It's on replay over and over. But
For
now
good
we're
reason.
seeing, yeah, for good reason. It's dangerous. So now we're starting to see some major improvements and some great steps forward that now we can probably see it as a reality within 3 to 5 years. So that's exciting news to me. I mean, I like this kind of stuff. My son also studies a lot about nuclear energy and fusion and too. I know he would be a great person to talk on this subject, but I'm going to take a stab at it here. So there are 13 private startups out there that are in the fusion project market. They're trying to be the first to market with fusion power. So
Hey, Jim,
there's
maybe
plenty
it
to
makes
look at.
sense to just to explain what fusion power is.
Yeah, fusion is exactly what it's talking about, fusing together two molecules of a fuel. And when from that fuel, you derive an immense amount of power. It's like an atom bomb, right? Like that's the idea of fusing those two together. It's the same idea, but it is the power of the sun. It's the power of a star. It is power very hard to contain because it is so immense. So they've had to figure out can we just take one atom or one molecule of a particular element. In this case, I'm going to talk about TAE because are using a new fuel, and that fuel is a combination of hydrogen and boron. And they take one molecule of each and fuse them together. And from that, they can get, oh gosh, megawatts. We can show the Tomac reactor. This is a picture of a reactor that is also known as a stellarator. So it's a way to contain this fusion in a plasma beam, or in this case, this is kind of a circular donut in that particular reactor. I'm going to show you another reactor in a little bit that's a bit different. But this one is the one that most of the fusion companies are trying to replicate and create. Now, remember, this design is like 50 years old or 30 years old, I think. And it originally was a huge reactor, and now they've scaled it down and made it to where they can build something economically so they can try to create this power by fusing these different types of fuel together. The most common fuel that is out there right now is called DT. It's called deuterium and tritium. So one molecule of each fused together.
Do they use some
power?
dilithium crystals in that, Jim? Because we all
No
know about
dilithium
dilithium crystals,
no.
right?
Yeah, unfortunately, nope. I think that's
How
all
big
for
is
fiction.
this thing? Is this like
A room, big
a
room,
room?
great big room. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And I don't know if they're going to scale it up to make it much larger, but this is for testing purposes only right now, right? But there's problems though with using deuterium tritium. And here's the things. One, there's 80% neutron loss. That's one of the problems. The neutrons just escape. They just pass right through everything and they're lost.
And is that dangerous?
Yeah, because with it is radioactivity that comes with it. So there's radioactive damage that happens to the reactor. So that after a period of time, the reactor has to be replaced. So that's a problem. So, and the third problem is that they need to use water to cool it. So there's a huge amount of steam that's required. And so they're trying to use steam turbines, which there's a huge amount of energy loss with turbines as opposed to direct generated electricity. So those are the three things. Also, tritium is incredibly rare. So tritium is created or bred inside of a reactor using lithium, which is another element which is difficult to get hold of. And after all of this, we have this whole problem of waste, all this waste product that happens. So TAE is another company who's come up with a different fuel source. which I thought was really exciting because it's just really hydrogen and boron. And they call it P11B. So it doesn't release neutrons. Its byproduct is helium, which is
So
totally
there's a
harmless to
different
us.
kind of different kind of system.
Yeah, completely different fuel. It'll be the same kind of system, but different fuel. But the difference is in the fuel types is how you get it ignited, right? How do you get it started? How do you get the fusion to happen? How do you get these two things to come together and fuse? So with DT, deuterium tritium, it takes 150 million degrees Celsius to fuse them together. Okay,
I
get
think
that?
that's
100.
I think that's hot. What do you think, Gus?
So,
I can't even wrap my head around that.
so in the TAE version, and we'll take a look at this other reactor, they are using a different method to cause the fusion to start. However, this material that they have chosen takes between 1 to 5 billion degrees Celsius to start the fusion. All right.
So in other
I
words,
said
this isn't going to happen anytime soon. You said
So-
5 years?
there is not any kind of material that can contain that kind of heat. So they've come up with a different idea of how could they contain the actual, what's the word for it? The plasma,
Heat?
the actual plasma at that kind of heat so that it doesn't touch any of the sides of any type of a reactor. And what they've come up with is using these giant particles. And you can see in the diagram or the image that they've got these giant particle beams that shoot at the plasma and keep it away from the sides of the reactor.
Oh,
So
so,
now
it's
you
kind of like having some
suspend it.
magnets, like those things that you can buy at the Globe, and it's got
Yeah.
magnets that basically suspended in air, and they're
So there's no magnets
reverse
in this one,
polarity.
but yeah, same idea.
Okay.
In the tritium,
keeps it in the center
one,
of the reactor instead of on the
Yeah.
edges where it deteriorates the reactor. Is that right?
so the DT fuel, yes, that's right. But not with this, not with the hydrogen and boron. This is a different system. And so they don't use magnets. They're using these giant particle beams to keep blasting the actual magma, or whatever you want to call it, the plasma, the thing that glows as hot as the sun. And it's being rotated and kept away from the side walls by these giant particle beams.
93
is pretty
million miles
amazing.
away. 93 million, the sun.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is going to be right inside of a reactor. So
Yeah,
It's
I don't
pretty
know.
dangerous.
Jim, I think I'm due back on the planet Earth here. This is crazy.
yeah, it is crazy. But the DT fuel can generate 17.6 mega electron volts, which is about 1,800 kilowatts of energy for every 1 kilowatt hour of energy they put into it. So it's a 1 to 1,800 ratio, right? Really
Wow.
good returns. Now, the P11B fueled reactors, they only return 8.6 mega electrons, which is only 30 kilowatts to every 1 kilowatt expended. So it's a 1 to 30 relationship. So much more eco-friendly for the environment, but returns on the electrical power is much lower. You know, the
So
question
one
is,
of them
can,
does like 1,800 times ROI, and the
Yeah.
other one is only like, what did
30.
you say, 30 times?
30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that 30 times one is the one that has billions of degrees, right? Not,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So interesting.
So
So
the
the concept
goal-
here is that they're pushing molecules together, and that's
Yeah,
the byproduct is energy. Whereas with the atomic bomb, wasn't that separating the atom? That's where the energy came
Yeah,
from,
and-
sort of like the opposite strategy.
Yeah, so I guess it's neutron bomb, not atom bomb. Yeah, atom was splitting the bomb. Neutrons are fusing. So it's the same idea.
Over my head.
Now,
Yeah,
Jim, when we were talking the other day, you had mentioned that Microsoft signed an agreement with one of these companies. Can you tell us about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, Microsoft just signed an agreement with Helion. So they guarantee that they would produce electricity by 2028.
Or-
or return all the money back to
With this
Microsoft.
method?
With fusion, using fusion. Yeah, so they're
Wow.
gonna, whatever fuel they use, they're gonna fuse together and create this energy. But they've already made a hardened agreement, with Microsoft that they will deliver
Well, if they
power by
spent all the money,
2028.
how are they going to give it all the money back?
I don't know. I have no idea. They're probably a big corporation. I didn't do that
I want
level
to
of
know who
research.
wrote that slide deck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So basically, you
Yeah.
got clean energy, right? So that's a huge
Absolutely.
advantage. And there's no risk of meltdown like China syndrome type of thing. Is that true?
If you stop fusion, everything stops. So yeah, if you don't keep it going, it just turns off. Right? It's not like
That's wonderful.
yeah, it's not like our nuclear plants because you have this rod that's been now excited and it's going to stay hot. You can't just immediately turn it off. It's going to take a long time to cool it back down. So that's not the same thing as this. You turn off the fusion, you take away the fuel from it, it stops. You have to keep
So-
giving it fuel.
So what is the promise here of fusion? What can it generate a lot of electricity and make a lot of money? Can it change the way that we use energy? Can it negate the need for fossil fuels in the future? What's the
Absolutely.
story with it? I mean, it
it's
sounds like
clean
it's
carbon.
basically putting the sun in a box and
Yes.
boom, you got the power.
Yeah. Clean carbon-free power. And the early customers are not going to be households. They're going to be data centers, industrial plants, defense installations. That's where all the effort's going to go first. And then it'll get down at our average users out here when it's been
So
tried
there's
and true.
more than just two different
we lost
fusion
your
approaches,
audio,
right?
Bill.
There's like what, 4 or more different ones? Yeah.
And someone's going to win that.
Uh-oh.
Someone's
That
going to
would
win
be-
the battle.
So from a business standpoint, it's a winner-take-all race, right? Whoever gets there first is going to run with it, and the profits go along with that. And they estimate it's $1 trillion annual energy market. $1 trillion annual energy market.
Oh, you bet.
So, and like you said, it's not going to be households first. It's going to be data centers. It's going to be industrial plants, defense installations, places where they have to be always on carbon-free power worth a premium because the price might be a little high to begin with. Fusion today sits at a kind of a real dangerous intersection because it's real science that requires real capital, and now we need real deadlines. And so we've got 2028. Somebody's put a stick in the stand and said, I'm going to deliver power by 2028. That's going to push every other company out there that's in fusion to deliver the same. So the question
Well,
isn't,
I'll take the over on that.
yeah, the
Let
question
it be
is
said
whoever
right
gets
now.
there first, right?
What's the name of that poly market? Can we bet on this?
Oh, yeah. Let's check that out.
There you go.
I will bet on that. So this is just wonderful. I mean, it's a great solution. I just don't know if it's realistic.
Yeah.
But thank
well,
you,
it hasn't
Jim.
been to date because I remember all of the people in airports over the years back in the 70s where they were pumping fusion and the idea of fusion because conceptually it works. The trouble is making it work practically in reality. So
And affordably.
now,
Well,
speaking of convergence, right? Waymo just hit 450,000 weekly rides. And what does that mean? That means that they are doing one ride every 1.3 seconds in the markets, but they're only in like 4 markets. So it's not like a barn buster, but it could be because if they're in 4 markets and they're doing 450,000 weekly rides, then you times that by all the markets in the US and you've got a huge amount of money. And of course, Waymo is owned by Alphabet, which is Google, and or affiliated in the same holding company as Google. So anyway, there's been problems with Waymo. For instance, they're driving down the road and they're pouring brand new concrete and the Waymo sees it and it's like, oh, that looks good. Boom. Then it stops, right? Well, a human driver would know that that was wet concrete, but the Waymo didn't know. And those are the sort of things that we can predict might happen. But until they actually happen, then we can do a detector for that type of thing. And until then, you're watching a very expensive, very public beta test with real human beings as the guinea pigs, right?
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, I had an experience with a Waymo where I came up on a four-way intersection and I was going straight ahead, and the Waymo turned left in front of me, cut me off, just completely cut me off. It should not have turned left. And quickly, thankfully, I was quick enough to stop and let it pass by. But I thought,
Because you're
there's
human.
nobody to complain to about that. There's nothing. It just let him go.
Yeah. Well, I was, my wife and I were doing a run in downtown Austin, and during it, they closed the streets off and stuff, right? So there's police officers moving as the runners go down the Congress Avenue. They have a bunch of motorcycle cops, and they go forward and then stop, the traffic, but the traffic signals continue as if normal. But the police have turned off and stand there and say, don't go. I saw an experience. I can't remember if it was a Waymo or a different brand, but nevertheless, the cop was there and he's like putting his hand out and the car just keeps coming toward him. Now
Right.
it's not running him over, but we're talking about 6 or 8 inches from him. And every time he steps back or moves or a little bit, the car goes forward a little bit more. Like it
Well,
was
that's why they've only rolled it out in a few markets, and I think they're smart. Obviously Google has the power to the wherewithal to roll it out on a major scale, but they're being very cautious and they have their test markets. And I feel bad for you guys in Austin with stories like that. We don't have them in San Diego, but it is interesting that they've taken this slow approach, and I'll be curious to see because you mentioned that they have what 450,000 rides. It was only about 100,000 just a few months ago. So I mean,
Wow.
it's accelerating, and
Yep.
it's cheap. The
if,
average ride
if
is
Tesla
$3.
gets out there, it's gonna and driverless, like they are, it's gonna be even cheaper because the Waymo cars are very expensive,
Mm.
and I'm told that all the lidar and all the different components of a Waymo costs upwards of $45,000 up to $45,000 per car.
They do.
But
Too.
the average
Whereas,
ride is $3. That's crazy. That's very
yeah,
cheap.
yeah.
So however they're doing it, but yeah, you're right. If they can cut that cost down, think about the adoption level at $3 a ride.
Yeah, well, they say that robotaxi from Tesla is like less than half of the Uber ride. I don't know how
Average
it
app.
compares to Waymo, but less than half.
Mhm.
But you see, the Tesla is equipped intrinsically already with all those cameras. And so there's no additional cost. You can buy a full Tesla for $45,000. When you're talking about putting a Waymo out there, first you buy the car for $60,000, and then you put on all the equipment, that weird looking lidar
Yeah,
at
they're
the
fun.
top.
They're funky looking.
They're funky
They
looking.
are.
There's no doubt about it. And, that's 40,000. So right there, it's not just the cost of the car like it is with Tesla. So the cost of the driver, I'm not sure exceeds the cost of the Waymo with the automobile combined. It's pretty
It
expensive.
Well, certainly
seems like
the
all of these
R&D.
technologies, all these technologies we're talking about today have a trust issue with all of them, right?
Yeah.
So we have a trust issue with TikTok's algorithm, who's in charge of that. We have a trust issue with AI coding tools, whether we can trust that they're secure. There's a trust problem with the Fusion startup. Are they going to blow us up? I mean, are they going to create more problems by using this technology? And then also now with these autonomous vehicles, that's been a trust issue lately, and why they aren't able to actually say they can go to full autonomous level 5 driving because of the very trust issues. It can't make decisions that humans make. It still can't do it. And because of that, it can't move at scale. That's why things are moving slow. Otherwise, we just see them everywhere. It's just too dangerous right now. We only see it in 4 cities for this Waymo, product, right? And I've never been in one, so I really don't know what it's like to be in one of those
Will
things.
you go? Will you go in one?
I've been in one.
I don't have a problem with it. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty trustworthy if it's going to be in a city like that, and it's growing at the rate that it is. But at the same time, we've seen problems with the cyber cab, same issues. It cannot see some things that humans would normally interpret as being a
Well,
problem.
they're good at reading maps, but when there's a construction site or something like that,
Yeah,
so all I got to say is fasten your seatbelt.
yeah, for sure.
There you go. Well, now you've heard it. The sub-billionaires have weighed in on the Waymo. And
Yep.
so thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure you go over and take a look at the AHA slides where you can weigh in, and we will publish the statistics on your answers to these 4 segments. And it's pretty cool system when you go over there, and you'll see you can click on that link inside of your show notes and go right over to AHA slides, and you can navigate those slides and answer the polls or not answer the polls. Tell us you love us. Tell us you hate us. And so
Yeah.
go on over there and check it out. So thanks for joining us. Jim, any last words for our premiere?
Across all 4 segments, the pattern's unmistakable. We're extraordinarily good at building powerful systems. That's no doubt about that. It's just a question now of containing their blast radius, right? The least damage done, the better.
I would say, hey, thanks for joining, and we'll see you next week.
That's a good one too. Hey, I agree. Next
That's
week.
What
great,
about you,
guys.
Bill? What's your words of wisdom?
Start learning to code, start learning AI, learn how to use it, because seriously, in the next 12 to 14 months, they're talking about 14% of the workforce, the white collar workforce, being displaced. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to lose their job, but they're going to have to get retrained. And so don't fear it. It's good stuff. You're not going to stop it. Now, you might remember when Walmart started going into all these towns around the nation, right? And all the small business people, the Ace Hardwares and all that, and they were saying, hey, stop this Walmart, stop this Walmart. At the bottom, at the end of the day, all of those smaller vendors should have done what? They should have sold their businesses and all the property and all the profits that they had made over the years, and then bought Walmart stock. Because when you see a train coming, it's like you need to get out of the way. And the best way to get out of the way is to basically take a great big deep breath and look at it. AI is not the enemy. These things are converging. So if you look at the reason why we call it convergence is Tesla has what? Cars that are autonomous. They also have a robot, and they also have AI. So you take all 3 of those, and what do you have? You have an autonomous car because of the convergence of these technologies. That's what we're shooting at. And so thank you for joining us. Come back again. We've got several new episodes dropping immediately with this premiere. And you'll notice that we have a lot of shorts out there to educate people on what is a DPU, data processing unit, and all that sort of thing. So we have a lot of educational segments that are 60 seconds long. So let us know if you like it, and give us some constructive feedback. We love it. Talk to you then.
At this time, I'm going to ask you to fasten your seatbelts.
On behalf of the flight crew, thank you for flying with us and have a pleasant day.